Ground in the Middle East, the senior correspondent Mike Tobin live in Tel Aviv, which is still on alert for Iranian attacks. Mike.
And Trace, just about 15 minutes ago, we had another missile attack from Iran. This after a missile attack at about 12:30 local time killed 2 people in this area. Both of these attacks are cluster bombs delivered by Iranian missiles. They break up in the sky over Tel Aviv and drop dozens of bomblets. Those bomblets get through the air defenses. 2 of them came down in an area called Ramat Gan and killed a couple people in their 70s by shrapnel. The bomb struck multiple locations, including a rail station. Rescuers from Homefront Command search for casualties and survivors. This happened after Israel killed 2 key players from what remains of the Iranian leadership. One of them, Ali Laranjani, the man who appeared to be in charge of the regime after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed at the start of this war. Another killed by Israel, Gomer Reza Soleimani. He was the head of a militia called the Basij Force, the unit that brutally put down the popular uprising in January. Hezbollah, meantime, fired dozens of rockets into the north of Israel today. 5 drones were also launched into the north of Israel. Israel has now massed troops on the border inside Lebanon, and a large ground offensive to stop that rocket fire is possible. Israel also launched airstrikes into Beirut. There are unconfirmed reports.
Breaking tonight, Israel is on its highest state of alert as Iran unleashes a new and terrifying phase of this war cluster munitions falling on Israeli territory. Fox News reports that Israeli officials are bracing for more salvos of cluster rockets and missiles, even as their air defenses work overtime. And civilians run for shelter. These are not normal warheads. Cluster munitions scatter dozens of smaller bomblets over a wide area, many of which can fail to explode on impact, turning streets, fields, and playgrounds into hidden minefields for years, from the skies over northern Israel to the airspace above the Persian Gulf. The message from Tehran is clear. The war is not cooling down, it is evolving into something far more dangerous and indiscriminate. The question tonight is simple and terrifying. How long before one miscalculated strike, one failed interception? One hit on a packed city center turns this confrontation into a region-wide disaster? This is U.S. Media Power, and we're breaking it down. According to reporting from Fox News and Israeli officials they've spoken to, Israel is on high alert as Iran continues to launch cluster munitions toward Israeli territory. Here's what that means in plain language. Israeli air defenses from Iron Dome to other. Longer-range systems are tracking and trying to intercept salvos of rockets and missiles that carry cluster war. Aids. Civil defense networks are on full standby, sirens sounding across communities, people ordered into shelters, emergency services deployed. The Israeli military is reinforcing vulnerable areas, repositioning batteries, and preparing for the possibility that some of these cluster payloads will get through. For Israelis living in the north and center of the country, this doesn't feel like a news headline. It feels like a rolling test of how fast you can move your family from the living room to the bomb SH. Elter. Cluster munitions are not a new technology, but they are one of the most feared. Instead of carrying a single large explosive charge, a cluster bomb or warhead carries dozens. Sometimes hundreds of small bomblets when the shell opens in the air. Those bomblets spread out over a wide footprint. Some explode on impact, hitting soldiers, vehicles, and buildings. Others fail to detonate and become unexploded ordnance sitting in fields, gardens, roadsides, and apartment courtyards. For militaries, cluster munitions are attractive because they can hit large troop concentrations, damage runways, or deny an area to enemy movement. For civilians, they are a nightmare because they turn whole neighborhoods into randomized kill zones. They leave behind duds that can maim children who pick them up, or farmers working in their fields. That's why many countries have signed a convention banning. Cluster munitions, though key players in this current conflict have not. When reports say Iran is using cluster munitions against Israel, it means this war is moving deeper into a dangerous gray area. It is the space between targeting armies and endangering entire civilian populations, Israel's. Response, high alert is not just a PR phrase. It translates into a very specific set of actions. Military-wise, it means continuous monitoring of Iranian launch sites via satellites, drones, and intelligence sources higher readiness levels for air and missile defense batteries. Some move closer to likely target areas, fighter jets in the air, or on quick reaction standby do. Intercept more threats or respond with retaliatory strikes. On the civilian side, Home Front Command pushes out real-time alerts to phones and sirens. Schools and workplaces are reviewing or activating shelter protocols. Hospitals move to elevated awareness checking staff beds. And supplies in case of mass casualty events. In religious areas like Nybrak, this can be even more jarring, as residents focus more on faith and community. The psychological effect is massive. People plan their day around how... From Tehran's perspective, using cluster munitions serves several purposes in this phase of the war. First, it sends a message of escalation. Iran wants Israel and the U.S. to believe that the cost of striking Iran's leadership and infrastructure will be paid in. Israeli fear and vulnerability. Second, they are designed to overwhelm defenses. Cluster munitions and salvos can saturate missile defense systems, even if most are intercepted. A few getting through can spread bomblets over large areas. Third, they shape the battlefield psychologically, knowing that any field or roadside may hide. Unexploded bomblets slows troop movement and keeps civilians constantly on edge. Finally, it pushes the moral line. Iran's leadership may calculate that once both sides use these weapons, international pressure for a ceasefire will rise, but assigning moral blame becomes harder. In short, cluster munitions turn contested territory into a long-term hazard. Internationally, this will trigger strong condemnation and calls for the Convention on Cluster Munitions. But there's a colder possibility. The global public becomes desensitized. If what happens in northern Israel and western Iran becomes just another headline, it sets a dangerous standard for future wars everywhere.
Looking ahead, a few key questions will decide how dangerous the next days become. Does Iran intensify its use of cluster munitions, more salvos, more targets, or was this meant as a sharp, limited signal? Does Israel respond with even more aggressive strikes inside Iran, targeting launch sites, command centers, and senior commanders raising the stakes yet again? Do the United States and other allies quietly pressure both sides to draw some red lines, for example? Number cluster munitions in dense city centers? Does any serious diplomatic channel still exist, even unofficially, to keep this from tipping into a larger regional or even global crisis? Right now, we don't have clear answers, only indicators. What we do know is this: Israel remains on its highest alert level. Iran shows no sign of backing down. Weapons that many countries consider beyond the pale are now in active use. This is what escalation looks like in real time. As this story develops, here's what you should keep an eye on. Target choices. Are either side's strikes staying mainly on military sites or drifting closer to civilians, oil, and markets? Does Iran tie cluster attacks with more moves to disrupt shipping and energy flows? Allied behavior. Do other regional players stay out of the direct firing line? Or do proxies and militias enter the fight more openly? Language from leaders. Do public statements soften, stay the same, or get even more extreme? That rhetoric often signals where strategy is heading. This is U.S. Media Power. If you want real analysis of what these strikes mean for the rest of the world, you're in the right place. Subscribe, hit the bell, and tell us in the comments. Do you think the alert will force both sides to step back, or are we watching the new normal?